$29,000 movable mop head that I can put into the washing machine. It's the only mop that you're ever going to buy, the best mop you're ever going to use.
Yes.
Oh my God.
No way.
Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to Movie Storyline, where we recap movie storylines so you don't have to. Today, we're diving into Joy, a 2015 drama inspired by the true story of a woman who built a business empire from scratch. The film is a tale of tenacity, discovery, and resilience, starring Jennifer Lawrence in one of her most powerful roles as Joy. From family struggles to boardroom clashes, Joy takes us on a journey of ambition, betrayal, and determination as she finds success in her business. But what really happened? What does it all mean? And how did she survive? This is Joy. Let's break it down. The film begins with a flashback about Joy's childhood, the main character. Her happy life with her best friend named Jackie, her half-sister named Peggy, her parents, and also her grandmother. Little Joy is an imaginative, creative, and very intelligent child. Little Joy was good at creating things, and she showed off her creations in the form of paper castles and magical birds to her stepsister. But now Joy is an adult and has 2 children. Joy lives with her grandmother and 2 children, as well as her mother. Mother Joy, who was depressed after her divorce from her father, spent her days watching soap operas on television. Apart from that, Joy's ex-husband, whose name is Tony, is also still staying at Joy's house and living in the basement of her house. Joy's daily activities include working to meet the needs of her children and family, taking care of all the household needs, and also dealing with boredom with her mother's passive attitude, because she only watches TV all day. Joy was very upset, but as a dutiful child, she patiently took care of her mother. But even so, Joy still has a very kind grandmother who always supports every decision Joy makes. Since childhood, Joy could be said to be closer to her grandmother than her parents. Then, when the 3 of them were happily watching TV, Joy was shocked when suddenly her father, whose name was Rudy, came to her house, accompanied by Sharon, his new wife. It turns out that Joy and Sharon's father decided to separate, because Sharon felt that they could no longer live together. Joy immediately panicked because she thought it was impossible for her divorced father and mother to live together again. Moreover, the post-divorce trauma and depression experienced by his mother had not fully recovered. But in the end, Joy still allowed her father to stay in her house, but in the basement with her ex-husband. Arriving in the basement, Joy's ex-husband, Tony, was busy singing. Tony, who Joy had known since the beginning of their relationship as a singer, apparently still has an obsession with becoming a famous singer and continues to practice all the time. Tony was surprised to see Joy's father in his living room, and seemed to dislike Joy's father. Tony and his ex-father-in-law never got along from the start because of differences in character and the father's views, who considered Tony's dreams too ambitious. Finally, an argument occurred between Tony and Rudy, so Joy had to take a roll of tissue to separate Tony and Rudy's sleeping area. Well, after that, Joy went back upstairs and got ready to go to work. We flash back a little to the past. Joy in her youth attending a party where she first met Tony. There, Joy was fascinated by Tony's actions on stage. After that, the 2 of them chatted in a room and Tony told Joy about himself and his dream of becoming a famous musician. Hearing that, Joy was very impressed with Tony's optimistic and daring dream figure, very different from himself, who only lives boring days because he has to work to fulfill his parents' wishes. After their very close and intimate chat, Joy finally felt that she had fallen in love with Tony. And after that night, Joy and Tony started dating. Until one day, they got married. Even though Tony is actually a good man, Tony is a man who is lazy to work to earn a living. Tony thinks that he is not made to be an employee, and he still insists on becoming a singer. Joy, who at that time was already a mother and had 2 children, felt like she was carrying everything alone, working, taking care of children, and taking care of the house alone. As a result, they often had big fights until Joy became frustrated, and finally, they chose the path of divorce. Even though Tony still lives in Joy's basement, deep down in his heart, Tony still loves Joy. Back to the father. It turns out that Joy's father, who felt lonely after separating from his new wife, then joined a matchmaking agency that connected its clients via telephone. There Rudy also got to know Trudy, a rich widow who is also interested in him. Well, long story short, they planned a date. Trudy, in her luxury car, picks up Rudy at Joy's house. That night's date could be said to be a success, and they agreed to go out. And to celebrate their relationship, Trudy invited Rudy on vacation using her private boat, and invited Joy and her family to come along. On the boat, they sang together, enjoyed red wine, and so on. But in vain, when the ship tilted, the glasses and bottles of red wine fell and broke. Because she panicked, Joy immediately looked for a mop and cleaned it. But when Joy was wringing out the mop, the shards of glass injured Joy's hand. Arriving home with her hands still bandaged, Joy suddenly seemed to get an idea thanks to the spilled wine incident. He started to imagine something. Joy's imagination seemed to explode at that moment. All of her family was confused seeing Joy's behavior, but Joy remained focused. Until finally, her grandmother and father told her to go to sleep because they thought Joy was tired. In her sleep, Joy dreamed of meeting her childhood self. Little Joy, who was full of talent and brilliant ideas, immediately scolded Big Joy, because for the past 17 years, he has wasted his time and forgotten his dreams. And no one expected that the incident of spilled wine and Joy's injured hand would ultimately be the turning point for Joy to rediscover who she really was. Finally, after Joy woke up, she immediately told her father that if her father still wanted to live in her house, then he had to allow Joy to submit an investment proposal for her new idea to her father's rich new girlfriend. After that, Joy borrowed her child's crayons and started drawing design ideas in her head. Long story short, after all that, Joy then presented her business idea and how much funding she needed for the production process to Trudy. And it turns out that Joy's brilliant idea was a new design for a practical mop. Yes, the mop created by Joy can wring itself without having to be wrung directly by hand. So, all you have to do is pull the handle of the mop and the water in the mop will automatically be squeezed out. However, after Joy's long presentation, Trudy then confirmed and asked Joy 3 things. The first question is, where does Joy go to school? The second question, who is Joy at school? And the last question is, if in one room there is only Joy and her business rival and a gun, does Joy dare to shoot the gun at her business rival? Hearing that question, Joy was able to answer all of Trudy's questions well. Long story short, Trudy finally agreed to lend Joy some capital. And Joy also got permission to use part of her father's workshop area to carry out the production process. And the first stage of Joy's production process began. After that, Joy immediately tried to market her products to the shops she usually visited to shop for household necessities. But it turns out, Most of these shops have collaborated with large companies and refuse to market Joy's products. Joy offers her new mop for $20 and explains that customers only need to spend $20 once, because the mop made by Joy is a mop that is durable and long-lasting. However, Joy's offer was still rejected because from a business perspective, it would be more profitable if customers paid $5 100 times rather than $20 just once. Therefore, the company prefers to sell cheap products rather than durable ones. Not giving up, Joy finally tried the traditional marketing method, namely selling directly in the field. He did a demo of his product in the parking lot of a large supermarket called Kmart. But unfortunately, no one bought Joy's products, and the security officers even confiscated the products because they were selling them carelessly. Frustrated, Joy finally went home and cried. Then Tony, who felt sympathy for his ex-wife's struggle, took the initiative to introduce Joy to an acquaintance who owned a television station and had a home shopping program. Joy and Tony were then invited to come to his office to do a product presentation in front of the board of directors. There, at first, Joy felt like she was being made the butt of their jokes. Until one of the leaders named Neil Walker explained that they did not mean to mock Joy. Neil then told the story of his ups and downs in the business world, just like what Joy is experiencing now. Until finally, Neil was interested in Joy's product and persistence, and Neil asked Joy to produce 50,000 mops to be sold on his TV program. Hearing that, Joy was extremely happy, and she was also surprised when Neil invited her to watch the live filming process of the home shopping show in his studio. Joy was then amazed when she saw the heavy flow of purchases coming in via telephone. There, Neil encouraged Joy and said that her mop product could also reach sales of tens of thousands of units, as Joy was now witnessing. Then, finally, Joy decided to apply for a second capital loan from Trudy, which made Trudy quite surprised, because the results of the previous capital loan had not yet produced any results. Initially, Trudy refused, but after Joy managed to convince her that the TV program was great, Trudy was finally willing to lend her more capital to increase the production capacity of Joy's mops. Until the long-awaited day arrived, it was time for Joy's mop product to be broadcast on the home shopping show. All of her family and friends watched the TV show together and hoped that the show would be a success and Joy would be flooded with orders. But that night, it turned out that not a single unit of Joy's mop was sold. Joy was so shocked that she couldn't say a word. He then called Neil, who had previously ordered him to produce 50,000 of the mops, and Joy asked for compensation. However, unfortunately, their work contract does not state that unsold goods will be fully replaced. Joy felt very devastated and frustrated, but she didn't want to give up. The next day, he went to Neil's office and asked him to give him another chance, on condition that he himself must be the one to present the mop demo and be the host on the home shopping TV show. But Neil immediately refused because after all, someone who is not used to being in front of a camera filled with dazzling lights will definitely be nervous and could actually ruin the show. But because Joy kept convincing Neil finally agreed to let Joy go. And finally, the day came when Joy got her second chance. Joy was dressed like other artists, with clothes and makeup that were very different from Joy's previous looks. But Joy immediately changed her clothes back to her everyday clothes, and said that she wanted to appear as she was, and would represent the hearts of the audience, most of whom were housewives. Until Joy's turn arrived. And Joy immediately stood there, frozen in front of the camera. Joy didn't know what to do and what to say. Until Neil was really worried and kept trying to wake Joy up. Finally, A call came in and it turned out to be from his best friend Joy, who was watching his show with her family at home. Her friend pretended to ask about the mop that Joy was holding. At that moment, Joy immediately came to her senses and immediately became fluent in speaking and explaining the mop she had created in front of the camera.
There's not another mop right here. And I guarantee you, there will be no regrets. The phones are ringing. This is going to be the greatest. Oh my God, 29,000 movable mop head that I can put into the washing machine. It's the only mop that you're ever going to buy, the best mop you're ever going to use.
Yes.
Oh my God.
No way.
And after Joy's session was over, she was absolutely thrilled and very grateful to Neil. Day by day passed. Joy's business continued to soar sharply. Until at an event, the number of orders for Joy's mop reached 90,000 times. But after the event was over, Joy received news that her grandmother had passed away. Joy was also very shocked because her grandmother was the only person who believed that Joy would become a great woman, and now she has left her. The next day after her grandmother's funeral, Joy received news that the mop component supplier factory had unilaterally raised its production prices. At that time, the mop handles and components were made in an external factory. Meanwhile, Joy's factory is only for making mops and assembling them. The next day, Joy went alone to California, where the factory where her mop components were made. There, he protested because the factory owner had raised the production price and seemed to be blackmailing Joy when he found out that his mop sales had started to sell well. Joy then asked to see the room where her mop design was produced, but was forbidden from doing so. We can imagine a person who orders a product to be made, but he is not allowed to see the manufacturing process. But Joy didn't run out of ideas. Then she pretended to go to the toilet, and when she was in the toilet, Joy found a vent. Then Joy entered the ventilation. It turned out that Joy accidentally ended up in the warehouse where the mops were produced. And how surprised he was when he saw that the factory had actually claimed the patent rights to the mop design that Joy had made. Knowing this, Joy was furious, because the factory had secretly stolen Joy's mop patent design and sold the mop without Joy's knowledge. However, the factory manager and his men insisted that the mop was now theirs, and they immediately called the police to evict Joy. Long story short, sometime later, Joy faced a lawsuit over every sale of Joy's previous mops, because Joy mops are considered to be the design mops from that factory. At that time, according to the law, Joy could be said to have lost, and Joy's entire family was angry with her for causing Trudy to suffer losses and lose her investment money. Even her own father kept scolding Joy and telling her to sign a bankruptcy statement. Initially, Joy refused, because she felt she still wanted to fight a little more. But after being pressed by Trudy, her father, and Trudy's lawyer, Joy finally agreed to meet with her notary and declare that she was bankrupt. And since then, the relationship between Joy and her investor, Trudy, has been legally ended. Joy now lives alone. She had no one to support him at all in terms of funds and capital. At first glance, Joy looked like she wanted to give up. But it turns out Joy still hasn't given up. Joy decided to change into a tougher businesswoman by cutting her hair. After that, Joy spent the night continuously studying patent law and cases. So the next day, Joy went alone to Dallas to meet the factory owner in person at a hotel. Not long after, the factory owner came and threatened Joy by saying that in a situation where there were only the two of them in the room, the factory owner could kill Joy, and Joy would be considered to have committed suicide because she had gone bankrupt. Hearing the threat, Joy was not afraid at all. Joy then calmly exposed the factory owner's tricks and explained that there were differences between her design and the factory's design. And the registration date for the same design, it turns out, was earlier than Joy's, which had already been registered in Hong Kong, which means that the factory owner will lose according to the law and will be charged with theft of ideas and fraud. Hearing all of Joy's very detailed words, the factory owner was immediately frightened and then apologized, and will return all Joy's money and the losses that Joy experienced amounting to $50,000 plus another $50,000 plus interest. Joy then said that she had no intention of continuing the legal case as long as he was willing to sign the statement that Joy had prepared. And finally, Joy won. The patent rights to Joy's mop are back in his possession, and he is now no longer tied to Trudy. This means that Pell's sales, which can continue in the future, will be entirely Joy's own. And the movie ends. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never. And that's Joy's story, an extraordinary journey of an ordinary woman who faced everything: family pressure, betrayal, failure, and finally built her own business empire. This movie is not just about business, but about believing in yourself when the world doubts you, about rising from failure and continuing to move forward even though the road feels tough. The moral message of this film is that success does not come from luck alone, but from perseverance, confidence, and the courage to try even though you are afraid of failure. So, whatever your dreams are, big or small, remember, you don't need anyone's permission to fight for them. Just like Joy, you can create your own path to success. If you are inspired by this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video. Stay strong and keep chasing your dreams. Don't forget to be happy. See you again in the next storyline.